It just was unnecessary. That was definitely the biggest mistake of the night. Of all of the things wrong with this show, that was the biggest. Just the fact that it was booked at all. That it existed, that it happened the way it did, and that it ended up being a gigantic mess.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
Hey yo, and what's up, gang? Thank you for checking out the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show right here on Sledgehammer TV. My name is Nick Nightmare, and in this video, we are going to talk about everything wrong with this evening's Survivor Series War Games event. And it even comes to a surprise to me just how much there was wrong with this show. This was a very underwhelming event. It wasn't really all that bad per se as a whole. It just came off as underwhelming, and it's maybe a little bit of our own fault as fans because the WWE did such a great job at building up everything going into this that we expected some sort of a swerve or some sort of a big time angle going on, especially as it pertains to the men's War Games match, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. But we're talking about everything wrong with this show, and the biggest thing wrong with this show came right at the beginning, and that is the women's War Games match, the most unnecessary War Games match to ever be booked. Of all 10 females in this match, there is only 2 that are involved in a feud that has any kind of heat that deserves to be settled in any type of a cage, and that's the somewhat overly long, drawn-out Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley feud, which I wish would just come to an end. Of all the women, they're the only ones that needed to be inside of the War Games to settle their feud. Everything else was circumstantial, thrown together at the last minute, just so that the girls can have a War Games match like the guys. And when you do things like that, it often turns out the way this turned out. This was, for at least the first half, this was a botch fest. One of the reasons I think guys don't like women's wrestling when it involves weapons is because they're either afraid or don't know how to use the weapons. Was anybody watching Nia Jax's chair shots? What was the chair weighing 5,000 pounds? She couldn't get it up over her head, or she was just afraid of actually hurting the opponent in a War Games match that she's supposed to be hurting. I don't understand. And then you have on the other end of things, was I the only person that heard Bayley calling her moves before she actually hit them in the ring, telling Nia Jax to hit her with an elbow, telling her to catch the belt when she was hitting her with it? I mean, come on, man, be professional, lower your voice. You got the camera right in the ring with you. He can't go outside the ring. He's not that far from you. He's in the cage with you. Lower your voice. Come up with a code. Be professional. Do something. It breaks the immersion. And that's just 2 tiny things in a very long War Games match that the only thing I really liked about was Rhea Ripley's cool mask, which she didn't even wrestle in because she would have poked somebody's fucking eyes out with the horns on her head. That aside, yes, there were some cool spots. The trash can moonsault off the corner of the cage by Io Sky. Like, yeah, there was some cool things, but nothing mattered. Nothing mattered. They even had Tiffany Stratton make herself look like a dope by trying to cash in, or thinking about attempting to cash in the middle of a War Games match. If she cashed in and won one of the championships, what was going to happen after that? Did she not think this through? Like, I get it, you were doing it to get the pop from the crowd and because everybody's anticipating her trying to do this thing. But this isn't the time for that. You do that at the end of the match when the champion's like half dead. Not in the middle of the match when you can't get out. You can't run away. What are you going to do? You're going to get your ass beat. Whatever. That's nitpicking, I guess, at this point. But this match even had a terrible finish. Because Rhea Ripley puts Liv Morgan through the table with the riptide from the top rope. Great move, great spot. But they shouldn't have won this match. Do you realize that you have the women's champion, the women's Money in the Bank match holder, briefcase holder, I'm sorry, and the other women's world champion, respectively, all on the team that lost tonight? And they lost because I guess they think Rhea Ripley is more important than everything else, which I don't so much agree with. I don't have a problem with Rhea Ripley. I love her. I think she's great. I just don't think that it was necessary for her to get this win here. I don't know. It was a terrible match. It was boring. It was full of botches. And I didn't enjoy it. It was definitely the worst match on the whole entire show. It was followed by a match that definitely is going to have a lot of people talking. A controversial United States Championship matchup where we have crowned a new champion in the new Shinsuke Nakamura. And I know this is a hot topic for a lot of you people. LA Knight fans are probably pissed. I love LA Knight. I think he's one of the greatest things to come to the WWE in quite some time. He's gotten over big time. He's huge right now. And his run with the United States Championship has been spectacular. The guy hasn't lost a match since July. It's been great, right? But this needed to happen. Let me explain to you why it was super important for this to happen. It was a necessity for Shinsuke Nakamura to win this match and win this title on this night. We don't need an extended series of feuds or a long drawn out program to kick something off in this fashion. This is the perfect way to start it off. We're not talking about a Carmelo Hayes or some NXT call up or some schmuck from TNA or somebody, some unknown jobber type mid-card moron that just came out of nowhere and beat LA Knight for the US title. That's not what happened here. This is Shinsuke fucking Nakamura. Two-time former United States champion, former world champion, in New Japan, everywhere the guy goes, NXT former champion. This guy is a decorated, celebrated, certifiable superstar. He's a superstar. He's not some low-level guy. He shouldn't be losing this match. Most importantly, because they repackaged him and they're bringing him back, and you can't have a guy come back with a new look, a new attitude, a new gimmick, and then have him lose in his first shot out. You can't do that. It just kills everything. What would you have thought, say, back in the day, if Finn Balor came to the WWE and did his whole demon shit and lost in his first encounter? Who gives a shit then? This guy's a loser. They're trying to right the wrongs of Vince McMahon here. They're giving Shinsuke a second breath of life, and this is a great way to kickstart it off. This isn't the end for LA Knight. This is probably just the beginning of the program, which is going to lead with him probably getting it back. It's a great way to do it. It gives the shine to Shinsuke Nakamura. And then when you look at how they built it up, LA Knight lost, yes, but he has reasons, right? He has something to say. Well, you know, this guy blindsided me out of nowhere. Then he literally blinded me by spitting squid ink in my face. Right? The night before on SmackDown. It's perfect. It was built perfectly. So that's why, yes, in 2024, Shinsuke Nakamura needs to be a thing if they're going to use him. If they're not going to use him, that's one thing. But if you're going to bring him out and you're going to give him another run, you got to start it off big. This was a great way to do it. It was a necessity. It had to be done. And you don't judge it yet until we see where it goes from here. LA Knight's going to want his revenge. Maybe he gets a rematch at Main Event. Maybe he gets his rematch at the Rumble. Who knows? But it's a great way to start a program. Following that, we had the Intercontinental Championship Triple Threat match. Braun Breaker defeated Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. This took me as a surprise as well. I kind of thought that because Sheamus was Triple H's protege, Sheamus was his first little pet project for Triple H in the WWE, before he was running NXT, he had this guy under his wing, and they're very, very close, right? So I thought that maybe Trips was going to use his golden shovel, as the people like to say, or his golden sledgehammer, and strike down upon the booking and say that his friend Sheamus needs to be a Grand Slam champion. That is what Sheamus was in pursuit of. That's why he wants the title from Braun Breaker, the Intercontinental Championship, the one championship Sheamus has never won. And I thought they were going to use this triple threat to take the belt from Braun Breaker again, like they already had done after he first won it, by not having him actually lose it and having Sheamus pin Ludwig Kaiser to accomplish his goal, doing what I just said in the previous match, setting up a longer term program for Braun Breaker and Sheamus going forward. That's not what happened here. What happened here was the best match of the night, in my opinion. This was a wildly athletic match, a very hard-hitting affair, which you would expect with guys like Braun Breaker and Sheamus in there. Ludwig Kaiser, I'm still on the fence with this guy. I'm not sure how I really feel about him. He's got like a weird body thing going on, right? He walks around like a walking human question mark or something like that. I don't know. He's got like this weird vibe about how he moves around or whatever it is. I don't know. But that's another story for another day. Bottom line is, Braun Breaker is one of the best things WWE's got going. I love everything about this little Steiner guy. He is fantastic. The speed that he gets to deliver that spear is just inhuman. Absolutely inhuman. And this match, 5 stars, 6 stars if you're Dave Meltzer, was the match of the night for me. Braun Breaker retains his championship. Great match. Probably not the end of the pursuit for Sheamus as well, and probably Ludwig Kaiser. This is a solid middle card championship with a bunch of talent on the Raw side of things. I don't know who else they could pull in, but going forward, everything Braun Breaker does so far has been gold, and I love it. I didn't so much love the World Heavyweight Championship match where Gunther defeated the challenger Damian Priest via submission, only for one specific reason. Leading up into this thing, I was not happy with how they've been portraying Gunther. I don't like the champion that's losing his confidence angle, especially with a guy like Gunther. Right? He had the longest reign of the Intercontinental Championship in history. He lost it to Sami Zayn. He didn't go down and get all depressed and get down on himself and lose his confidence. He went out there, he dusted himself off, and he won himself the World Heavyweight Championship. And now you're telling me, because he almost lost to Damian Priest, and then he did lose to Cody Rhodes, and he lost to Cody Rhodes for a championship that's meaningless, right? It didn't really do anything to his championship or his status. That's enough to set this guy down a path that's going to make him question his own greatness. I don't buy it. I don't like it. I did like that Damian Priest was getting more confident. I did like that he was seeming to distance himself away from Rhea Ripley and the Terra Twins and that cringe nonsense, and that he was finally looking like he was stepping away from the never-ending feud with Finn and the Judgment Day. But that's not what happened here. And WWE goes where the WWE likes to go, and they pulled the old card that they love to pull every time they have a singles championship match. And what happened here? No, we didn't get a DQ. No, we got a straight-up win. But Gunther wouldn't have won had it not been for the interference of one Finn Balor. Which means that this feud's now going to go on and on and on. And I didn't want it to go on. I was so looking forward to the fact that they were doing something else, but I was a little worried about it because, you know, Finn and the the Judgment Day didn't have anything going on, right? They're not doing anything. So I almost thought, well, maybe he would get involved. I was hoping he wouldn't, but that's what happened here. So Damian Priest loses once again only because of the involvement of Finn Balor. So now he can walk around saying that. Like, I feel like they're too worried about protecting guys and nobody's getting clean wins anymore. And in this scenario, I wouldn't have minded either way who won. I really just wanted to have a clean victory championship match. But that doesn't happen very much in the WWE. The night ended with the men's War Games match, probably the most anticipated one of all time. You had Roman Reigns and the OG Bloodline with their new partner CM Punk, thanks to Paul Heyman, taking on Solo Sikoa and the Tongan Bloodline with their new buddy, Bronson Reed. There are so many things that we speculated leading into this that would have made this thing phenomenal. It would have been a huge way to end it if we would have had Seth Rollins come out and get involved in some way and tip the scales by either attacking Bronson Reed or attacking CM Punk or just getting in the eyesight of Roman Reigns long enough for him to be distracted enough to take the loss. Any of those things could have played a part. We could have had Paul Heyman turning on the OG Bloodline and actually being aligned with Solo Sikoa and his friends and family. We could have had CM Punk turn around and screw somebody. We could have had so many things happen. But do you know what happened? Nothing. A whole lot of nothing. Don't get me wrong. Yes, the match was very physical. Seemed a little bit drawn out. There was a lot of laying around with the guys too, especially as we got later on, because they were probably getting tired because they were pulling off some really cool spots. But it just didn't do it for me. And that's not their fault as much as maybe it is my fault for expecting some weird M. Night Shyamalan ending to the Survivor Series. And then they even wanted to go one step further. And when the smoke was cleared and all was said and done, and Roman and CM Punk and the OG Bloodline ended up victorious in this monstrous melee of a match, as they exited victorious, it kept going on, and they kept the camera on everybody. CM Punk went to the back and then ended up coming back out to pull a pose with everybody, which was the last thing that we seen to go off the air for Survivor Series. But I was waiting for something to happen. The Rock's music didn't hit. Triple H's music didn't hit. Nobody's music hit. Nothing happened. And we just had a straightforward War Games match. Nothing really even happened within the match. There was a little bit of tension between Roman and CM Punk, and the biggest thing that they did was have Paul Heyman come out and be like, please, you guys, we gotta get along, this is a War Games. And then they did, and they lived happily ever after. And now Paul Heyman owes CM Punk a favor. We don't know what that favor is going to be. Punk promises Heyman that favor is done whenever he asks for it. And that's the Survivor Series. That was a Survivor Series. Very big disappointment. And I understand that we had 2 War Games matches on this card. But I'm very disappointed, always, when we have a Survivor Series and they don't have a traditional Survivor Series match. And let me tell you something. I said it in my preview of the Women's War Games match, which was a couple of days ago. If you missed it, I had a bunch of shorts with all my predictions, which ended up being mostly wrong, but we're not going to get into that. You can go back and see for yourself. But the Women's War Games match was tailor-made. I'm sorry, the Women's War Games match was tailor-made for a traditional Survivor Series match instead. You didn't even have to have Rhea and Liv involved. You could have had Team Raw, Team SmackDown. You could have did Team Bianca versus Team Bayley. Whatever, and just take the random girls, have them pick and build teams, do that for a couple of weeks leading to Survivor Series. It's always fun. That's one of the cool things about Survivor Series, seeing what teams are going to form. Not for a War Games, but for the Survivor Series. Like, they know what to do because they did it for the War Games. But it shouldn't have been done for the women. And then you could have had Rhea and Liv in a cage. Once and for all, settle the score, whatever. Rhea's coming back from her broken nose and everything would have been great. The War Games matches are long, man. They're really friggin' long. You could have had 3 matches. 3 more matches on the card in the time you gave all those women. They could have been 3 more women's matches for all I fucking care. It just was unnecessary. That was definitely the biggest mistake of the night. Of all of the things wrong with this show, that was the biggest. Just the fact that it was booked at all. That it existed, that it happened the way it did, and that it ended up being a gigantic mess. A gigantic mess. But those were my thoughts on the Survivor Series. What's your thoughts on the Survivor Series? Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Thank you for tuning in on this video once again. Don't forget to check out everything else on the channel. I'll have a few things linked in and around here. Go check those out right now. Thank you so much. My name's Nick Nightmare. This has been the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show right here on Sledgehammer TV, and we will see you next time.